We are good to start now. So, hello everyone, and warm welcome to our today's webinar, COVID-19 Impact on Call and Contact Centers and the Future Outlook. My name is Angelika Marchenko, and I am Business Development Manager of Voiptime Cloud. And personally, for me, it's an honor to be host of today's event. And also an honor to share the floor with our outstanding panel of experts. So let's gonna start. I hope everyone sees the presentation, and we're starting with today's agenda. First of all, we will present the panelists from all over the globe and the host company. Then we'll turn to the main part, which is the discussion. And we're gonna speak about what the call centers faced with since the pandemic has begun, the main challenges the call centers faced with the pandemic, and then we'll move further to the transformation of call center working process due to COVID. Then we'll speak and hear the expert vision of the new normal and in terms of the call centers in the different geographies. And in the QA session by the end of the webinar, we'll have 15 minutes, and the participants who joined us today will have a chance to ask the panelists strategic questions about the direction in which the call centers industry will go. So our thought leaders will be taking queries in real time and be able to respond to your questions. You're welcome to write your question by clicking on the chat button and on the bottom of the panel or on the top, and our moderator will process it. So let's start with members of the expert panel, which include Zero Jones. He's an independent consultant to the contact center industry from Johannesburg, South Africa. Ro Jones is internationally recognized as a thought leader, industry analyst, strategic advisor, and subject matter expert in the extremely complex and specialized field of customer service delivery. He works with numerous international organizations in countries as a field in Botswana, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, so on and so forth. Hello, Rod. Nice to see you today. Okay, our next expert is Steve Baston. He is a 30-year BPO industry leader with exclusive experience leading BPO companies and transformational client solutions, managing director and founder of SK Weston in Baltimore. Hi, nice to see you. Thank you for joining. The next expert for today is Iryna Velychko. She is a 10 years plus independent consultant to the contact center management and optimization, board member of Ukrainian Association of Contact Centers, and also co-owner of the outsourcing call center Simply Contact, based in Kyiv, Ukraine. Hi, Iryna. Nice to see you too.
Nice to see you.
And last but not least, Iryna Velychko. He is an entrepreneur notable for his role in pioneering the first ever call center development organization in Zimbabwe. Moreover, the Tech24 Group Director. He is a founder of Contact Center Association of Zimbabwe and co-owner of the Chartered Institute of Customer Management. Hi, Iryna. Okay, and now please allow me a moment to present the Voiptime company. Here it goes. So we are a vendor of a fully featured call center solution that helps people improve customer service via phone or other channels of communication. We have more than 10 years of experience and implemented our cloud-based and on-premise call center solutions in many industries such as financial organizations, BPO, insurance, and etc. In the scope of the events of the world, we are actively helping sales and customer service departments to move to the cloud call center solution in order to enable all employees to continuously perform all necessary business functions as it used to be in the office. Our main experience and knowledge do ensure the business continuity, availability, and proper functioning of clients' call centers in remote work mode. So, and now let's kick in off with the main part. And we're gonna start speaking about the call centers, what they faced with since the pandemic has begun. Indisputably, the essential need which was arising, it was to ensure a safe working process and business continuity of contact centers. What were the biggest challenges at call centers faced with? Let's hear from different panelists from different parts of the world and compare what the situation was in different countries. Iryna, I give you the floor.
Thank you. Thank you, Angelica. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you all. First of all, I'd like to say a huge thanks to the Voiptime Cloud company for organizing this expert panel and letting me to be a part of it. And for sure, I am pleased to discuss with such famous consultants. Hope we will listen now a lot of interesting things. What about Ukraine? I want to tell you some words about Ukrainian history previously for understanding the situation in our country. As far as we Ukrainians have been through some big crises for the last 30 years, including a few financial crises, we got used to being out of the zone of comfort. So mainly, I think Ukrainians were ready for the new one. Another issue that I want to say that Ukraine received the call centers very late in the start of this century. That's why we received the best and new generation of contact center solutions at that moment. And next one, what I want to say, I think you should know, Ukraine has a very powerful IT sector, which is in the top 5 in the world. As a result, the last 10 years, our companies, many of them, have started to use a contact center solution by Ukrainian vendors. And you can see one of them, Voiptime Cloud, it's our organizer. We use in-house solutions based on strict open source software, for example. Almost all of them have possibilities for the work of remote agents. So I think technically Ukraine was mainly prepared for such changes in the work of contact centers. For the last 3 months, I made 2 surveys. In the beginning of the quarantine, in the middle of the March, and the next finished last week. And the first question when I asked the leaders of contact centers was the question how strongly the quarantine influenced their work. So you can see differences among start and finish of quarantine on this slide. Yeah. Of course, the first reaction was very emotional. 65% of responses for major changes turned in 37 after 3 months. You can see it, yeah. 15% of the Ukrainian contact centers did not feel any changes at all. 34% went through them quite easily, and the rest of those rest contact centers were faced more with a psychological factor than with a technical one, but quickly overcame it. It was the first opinion about crisis. It was not so strong as we talked about it in the start. This is a short review about Ukraine. I think it's enough for starting. Thank you, Angelika.
Thank you very much for your in-depth explanation. And now I would like to ask Rod what the situation is in South Africa. Please speak on that.
There we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was fascinating. I don't have nice, colorful slides like you do. So just a high-level overview of the South African contact center and BPO industry. Pre-COVID, we were running roughly 280,000 agents across the country, of which an estimated 70,000 were servicing international business through our BPO sector. The 26th of March was the announcement of our lockdown, so we are a little over 100 days. Now, the impact of that was significant in as much as within 48 hours, every single call center in the country was shut down, totally. And fortunately, through a very strong trade association that we have, the PESA, immediately started negotiations with the senior government officials, and literally within 48 hours, the regulations were amended and being changed to allow certain types of contact centers to go back into operation. So where we are now at roughly 100 days plus into the COVID pandemic. And the sad part is that the impact is still to come. We probably will peak the impact of COVID within the next 6 weeks. So we're on a growth at the moment, and it's actually quite frightening. So where we are now, in fact, I got the statistics from our association this afternoon, so these are very real. Their statistics are saying on-site operations are back 54%, are back in the workplace, and there are very strict regulations governing the back to work protocols, and 45% are remaining in a work from home environment, which is something we hadn't envisaged, the high uptake of work from home, which has been very successful. We have significant challenges on the work from home environment. One is security issues. Many of our workers, workforce in the call center industry, live in informal settlements, informal residential areas where there is significant crime, unfortunately, and therefore security is a risk. And the other very important aspect for us, our industry, is bandwidth. Operators found significant problems initially with moving agents home back due to bandwidth. So that's really where we are at the moment. We're about 50% back to work. The social distancing has reduced the capacity of a lot of the contact centers. And as I said, the protocols for screening, safety, security are in place, and it's impacting quite significantly on productivity. But the prospects of recovering, and I'll talk about that later in the discussions this afternoon, but that's where we are at this time. Thank you.
This is really great, Rod. Thank you for providing them such a good, insightful statistics. And I would like to turn now to Iryna to talk about the situation in Zimbabwe. Please.
Thank you so much, Angelica. And I think the other speakers, they've spoken so the cases are more or less the same, but if you had to check, the industry was caught unaware, just else in the world. And if you had to check right now, in terms of the statistics, during the lockdown, around end of March, we had percentage answer rate, if I'm to give you the key highlights for the industry, because we conduct some industry research annually, and every month we also do some KPI for benchmarking research as well for the industry as well. So in the month of March, from what we gathered, the answer rate was around 65%, the percentage answer rate, and we had 62% for the service level agreements. I mean, the service level agreements for the contact centers in the country. So this shows some huge decline, and companies were affected. So, and we didn't have any contact centers that had started, I mean, the work from home, concept. So it only started, they were forced to adopt that during the lockdown. So because of that, we saw the unpreparedness of a number of companies, but we are so happy that to say, right now, if you are to check in the industry, we have almost 69% of agents who are back at work, because we are not as much affected like South Africa or other countries in the outside Africa. Our cases, they are still less than 500 officially. I don't know unofficially. So because of that, almost 69% of agents are back at work, and 31% are still working from home. And what have also helped, I mean, Zimbabwe, and I think it also applies to the lesser extent in Zambia, where our neighboring country, because we also have the statistics for Zambia. What have helped us is also the internet connectivity. During the lockdown, there was power. So we didn't have some power challenges, and internet connectivity, it really helped us. And we also don't have the crime rate. The crime rate is very low. So it really helped us now in terms of the work from home. That's why our answer rate remained at around 65%.
Okay, thank you. That was insightful. That is interesting and good indicators which we heard. And now I also would like to share my screen and go to the slide and show you the effect on pandemic crisis on the call centers. And we see here the statistics in UK and in the US. So as we see in UK that 84% moved to being mostly home-based, and 13% still mostly office-based, and only 3% mostly home-based was previously by that time. So this information is according to the Contact Bible service. And here we go. The situation in US, we see that it is split to the small, medium, large companies, and the statistics really matters due to the size of the call centers companies. So due to the crisis, the large contract centers, they stay working from home at the middle of June. Meanwhile, small and mid-sized ones start coming back to office. Steve, what do you think about this? Does it coincide with the situation you observe?
It does, and obviously it depends on the region of the country, because some states opened up earlier than others. We had certain states, especially in the Northeast, California, where you have dense populations where the bulk of the COVID cases were materialized, which meant they were kept shut down a lot longer. Obviously this created some challenges on the work at home, moving as many people to work at home. Now, as states have started to open up over the last 6 weeks, I believe we have every state opened up in some capacity. because of the social distancing rules, yeah, the larger ones are having a larger component still at work at home for that reason. Number two, what'll be interesting to see over the next probably 4 weeks is, as expected, when you open up your market, we start to see spikes in cases. It was bound to happen. There are certain states that are seeing more spikes, which are in Texas and Florida, which have a large contact center component, a number of seats, work at home. They're not going to shut back down, but they're now slowing they're kind of taking a step back on the rollouts. And businesses that hadn't fully rolled out are being halted right now until they can get those cases under control. So a lot of moving parts. I think your chart though is very accurate.
Okay, Steve. Thank you for sharing the information. And also, in your opinion, which sector of business was hit the most by Corona crisis, and which one the less?
Right. So, there's two ways to look at this. And if you don't mind me addressing it this way, because as I just said, all verticals were hit really hard in terms of what it did was, it really poked holes in contact center strategies in terms of disaster recovery. Obviously, we have a lot of our BPOs, our healthcare sector, our financial services, tech sector have presence with BPOs onshore, nearshore, offshore. There were certain offshore locations that could not go to work at home due to broadband issues. And therefore, it poked holes in everyone's strategy in terms of they quickly had to move calls back as much onshore as they could, and or moving them to work at home onshore for those countries that could not accommodate work at home. There were also certain technology restrictions, which was another hole in some of these companies' strategies with regards to BPOs on, whether you have premise versus cloud technology. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here with Voiptime, but it's true. Those who had cloud technology could move very rapidly into a work at home and be able to move volume all around the world with a snap of a finger. The premise base, a lot of security issues and much more difficult to move. So these things affected all verticals. The second area, though, in terms of vertical specific, it's the regulated markets like financial services, certain components of healthcare, which have much tighter security requirements, PCI, PHI type of requirements, and being able to take a lot of those calls and move them to work at home. If you didn't already have the protocols in place, some healthcare companies, some financial services had the security protocols already in place, had a smaller work at home environment than they have today, but they had those protocols. So, the right security components on laptops, the security protocols in terms of call distribution, ensuring laptops are locked down, no printing capability, using cameras on the phone, on the laptops to monitor remotely to make sure that no one's using cell phones and so on. So for financial services, healthcare companies who didn't have that in place, they really struggled. And you find that when you go to call some of these companies, wait times 45 minutes to an hour, just because they could not get enough people into that environment. On the positive side, there are markets that have actually opened up because of this crisis. And this is all around contact tracing and overall COVID testing. So every state now is going into a contact tracing model in terms of they want to be much, as they become much more active in testing, and as we start to see these breakouts of new cases, contact tracing has become a huge component in trying to control those flare-ups. And so they are looking for contact tracing, BPOs who can support contact tracing like crazy. I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of seats, brand new, right? So this is a whole new vertical. And the hope is that it'll take some of the contact center agents who were doing, some of the industries that have not come back, like hospitality, or areas such as that, and utilizing those agents into the contact tracing model. So there is a positive outcome of this in terms of creating actually a whole new vertical.
Thank you, Steve. This information is really profound. And I also like to add from my side that according to the source of Contact Bible, more than 60% of contact centers with the average size and they're shifting to the homework seamless. They already has been shifted. And so they have been prepared. That's why that was pretty easy for them, and they didn't feel the difficulties because they were prepared enough. Yeah, I repeat, it's 60% in Ravage. And one of the main reason, of coming to cloud solution is that they had outdated systems or legacy telephony solutions, which did not allow them to work from home. So coming to the next question, Iryna, that will be for you. I'll also stop sharing my screen so you could share that further. So according to the Iryna's survey of Ukraine call centers within the finance sector, they benefited more than outsourcing ones due to good technical support and automation. Is it really so for now? And just please share more on this with us.
I would not say that everything is so simple in the financial sector outperformed outsourcing through the technology. In the real life, in Ukraine, financial sector is for the most part use less flexible solution for the contact centers than outsourcing. And the requirement for confidentiality is higher there, so it was more difficult to switch to remote work for the financial sector technically, you spoke about this. But remote work, for example, requires large capacities for servers, for example, or the delivery of computer or headsets to agents who works at home. Definitely, financial companies could afford it, but many outsourcers couldn't provide enough equipment to remote workers because they can't make such business investments. You can see on this slide differences in answers among financial sector and outsourcing sector about difficulties in the period of quarantine. So I continue my topics. Besides, the banks could not transfer the additional load of to outsourcing because outsourcing had a lack of people in the period of quarantine, and it was not chance to get them during this period. But the financial sector has had a clear advantage, such as the presence of business processes and clear regulation of work, which are often lacking in outsourcing, especially in small companies. It was the panic and lack of clear instructions that prevented companies from restructuring their work quickly and efficiently. So you can see on this slide outsourcing has few problems with remote working places. Only 7% versus 25% in financial sector. Mainly, outsourcing has problems with work at home with staff. Because outsourcing mainly involves students living in dormitories. Yeah, near 36%. You can see it here. But I think the problems with the homework we see all over the world. Many contact centers were not prepared for such a situation. Yeah, but you can see difference in panic and in panic mode. You can see 19% in outsource and only 5% in financial sector. As a co-owner of the outsourcing contact center Simply Contact, I can say that it was a well-coordinated work of the staff and a clear understanding of their place and task of each employee that help us transfer more than 400 people to remote work in less than 1 week. Simply, we have a great analytic system that automatically generated reports every hour. It was very helpful to us in this work. Yeah. Thus, we are able to check the effectiveness of each agent and each project as a whole. As a result, we can flexibly and productivity adjust the work and make sure that no bottlenecks. That's why it was very easy for us, but not for many our outsourcing contact centers. So we saw the answers of some companies that we will not work with outsourcing more. We must think about it, and I know such situation not only in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here it is.
So you can see total information, the information for total contact centers in Ukraine. The main problem, the first of one was the real problem with work from home, yeah, for agents, and next one panic and not enough quantity of time for preparing and receiving a good solutions in such situation. So it's my opinion and the result of our surveys. Angelica, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It's the next for next question.
Okay. Thank you very much for your statistics and in-depth explanation. And it's great to know that with your Simply Contact, it was organized very cooperatively and you're doing well. So right now we are going to another section of questions. We are moving to the transformation of call center working process due to COVID-19. And as far as I know, Rod, you have been doing a great job by interviewing many call center executives. So please share with us what was the biggest challenges during this lockdown the contact centers faced with accordingly, and how they adopted to the realities of the global pandemic?
Right, thank you very much. The coping with the pandemic has been a massive challenge for our entire industry, and in fact for our country as a whole. And the economy, like many countries throughout the world, has been decimated. But the positive side is that the contact center operators are moving rapidly into the new normal, whatever that might be, by adopting policies, processes, sanitation procedures, and a whole raft of interventions that have been architected by the trade association BAPESA, which has been mandated by government to self-regulate the industry. And that's it's a first, I think, for our industry, that the industry body has actually taken on the role of managing the reintroduction of contact center operations moving forward. And that's why 100 days into lockdown, we are about 50% up on productivity now. The major challenges, once again, are connectivity issues, security issues. Another component which hadn't been fully anticipated is transportation. Majority, 70% of our workforce uses informal taxis to travel to and from work. There are stringent regulations being imposed on taxis in terms of carrying capacity, etc. So logistics of moving staff, although the regulations allow staff to go back into the workplace, we have some challenges getting the people in there as well. What we've also found is the customer satisfaction. There was a lot of leeway. Customers were giving a lot more leeway in terms of their expectations of call centers initially. But 3 months into the lockdown, they are expecting the same levels of service that were in place pre-lockdown. So notwithstanding the fact that we have challenges in remote workforce, etc., customer expectations are back up there, the high level of demand, which is causing a lot of problems with CSAT and NPS figures, etc. So those are some of the things that are facing us at the moment. However, there are some upsides that I think, because our association moved very fast and managed to implement changes in the regulations, we've had a spate of new business BPO work coming into South Africa from international destinations, particularly the United States and Australia, who now see us as a safe haven, if you like, for operation of contact centers. It's been small in numbers, but it's encouraging nonetheless. So that's where we are at the moment. We no doubt have another discussion a little later about where is the new future, where is the new normal. But back to you, Angelica. Thank you.
Yeah, this is really good stuff. And the next question, let's talk about that. Obviously, there are maybe many factors impacting upon the customer contact outcomes while working from home. And these are such as increased call lengths due to different types of query, longer after call wrap-up due to lack of the agent familiarity with the remote system, and depleted resource due to staff absence and shorter working hours. So how can the managers ensure that the agents, they are still hitting the core KPIs, measure success in this period? And what can you tell, especially from your side of experience, Rhinus?
Okay, so what we've noticed is that during the lockdown, most of the agents, if you had, from the research that we did also locally here in Zimbabwe, we noted that the average age of a call center agent, it was around 28 years. That was the average age for a call center agent across the industry. And these youngsters, they love to hug, they love to talk to each other. And that component now, when they were working from home, the challenge now was they lacked that friendship, that companionship. So it tend to affect, the morale also to the certain extent. So morale from working from home, because you are missing your colleagues and stuff, it went down because it wasn't about money, but it's about missing your work colleagues. So definitely that was a key thing that we noticed in the industry, and that most managers we're working on now to say how can we improve the morale. And one key component, they were doing some group chats. So they would create maybe a 30-minute chat where they'll be joking, not discussing about work, but just talking about social issues. How are you? How are you coping? How can you help each other? They will do Skype meetings, Zoom meetings, just to check on each other, just to improve morale. Another thing to motivate teams, because they also, most agencies, especially in the outbound sections, they were getting commission based, but because they were now working from home, the commissions then went down because of the adjustment now from the normal, the old normal to the new normal. So they sort of give maybe increase the fixed allowance to ensure that at least they are cushioned, the staff members. So that really also helped in terms of boosting the morals of their staff members. Then what we also realized, and we have been recommending that to a number of players in the industry, in terms of coming up with flex hours. So instead of saying you have to work from 8 to, especially for outbound team members, from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, for example, we recommended to say, let your performance be measured on targets, not on the number of hours that you are, or the main hours. So they shifted from focusing on main hours to flex hours and to the actual targets. So that it was very flexible for the agents to work any time of the day or the night, depending on the nature of product that they will be handling. So that really also boosted the morale and also helped a number of managers for them to really adjust to the new normal. And in terms of also what we have realized, not only in Zimbabwe, I think this is a common challenge also across Africa, but in terms of the work tools availability. Most contact centers across Africa were having some challenges of having work tools. You'll find that maybe before the COVID-19, people were sharing headsets. They would sanitize the headsets and they would share, especially in Africa. So what you realize after the COVID-19, when people were working from home, they didn't have the work tools, enough work tools. Just maybe even the chair, the ergonomics, the chairs that are so comfortable. In the normal working environment, they were used to the comfortable working environment, good chairs and stuff. But we are now working from home. People would work maybe from seated on a bed. Those who are staying maybe in a one-bedroom flat, So that was a huge challenge now at the end of the day. And also the other thing in terms of performance management, the millennials, they love that flexibility and a number of other things. So it really also affected, when you are now working from home, you can't now press them for results. You can't be that difficult on them. And in terms of core quality monitoring, so a lot of standards had to go down sometimes, especially for outbound, section. But for the inbound, maybe it was a different ball game. But in a nutshell, these are some of the measures that are in place and that we have seen also being put in place across Africa.
Thank you for sharing your vision, Rhinus. And we're going to the next question. Steve, it will be all yours. And regarding, again, the financial sector, how's the BPO's work with the financial sector changed due to the COVID-19, where security data access requirements are really strict?
Sure. And some of this we've discussed already, but financial services is a large component of our practice, and quite a few of our BPOs support financial services today. However, not a large presence in the work at home environment. As you stressed in your chart earlier on, our BPOs here today, probably, and captives, the capability was about 50%. Their capability would be to work at home, which means you had this large hole in terms of security components that BPOs needed to fill to support financial services that work at home. We've talked about some of the protocols on that. The standard lockdown laptops, the lockdown work area, to ensure that they are PCI compliant, they're not storing data, all those components that BPOs handle today in a contact center had to be transferred to a work at home environment where, which was to some of them somewhat new. And so they, they've had to drastically change their outlook on technology support and agent support of financial services to ensure those security components are met. Secondly, again, as we talked about, quite a few of the financial service companies are re-looking at their BPO relationships now as lessons learned from the crisis, and that where exactly around the globe are those calls being taken and placed, and looking more carefully at disaster recovery protocols to ensure that they don't get stuck again where they can't move calls because they don't have the right security protocols in those work at home environments or in those country environments to support those calls. And that meant, again, upgrading technology that we talked about to support it, upgrading your personnel and personnel training, and most importantly, upgrading the environment in a work at home to support security protocols.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, that is a great stuff. So now let's jump into nowadays and discuss the notion of the new normal for the call centers. So what is the current situation now, and how are the call centers coming back to the new normal, as far as you given us the in-depth idea of situations happening in the different countries and continents. I'd like to ask you about your personal vision of the new normal in the terms of the call centers.
The new normal. If we could look into a crystal ball and see the future, we'd all be very rich. But I think just looking ahead, and as you said, I've been doing interviews with contact center BPO professionals all over the world, probing for what is the vision of the new normal. But I think there is a sort of a consensus that we'll be looking at. And I made a few bullet points here. I think the agility of an organization of BPO operators, be able to move very fast and be very flexible, because this pandemic, it too will pass, but there may be another one just behind it. So there's an eye on that agility, particularly with disaster recovery. And I think work from home is definitely going to be a big component. I think a BPO must be able to prove, at least show to potential clients that they have the capability to move their agents home. We're going to see, I think, lower cost of operations in some destinations, and that's where Africa comes to the fore. Lower cost of operations. I think we will be able to leverage our labor arbitrage and attract a lot more work into our region, purely based on the cost factor there. Big issues are going to be data security and data security protocols, procedures. So that's a number one issue. We're starting to see as well a massive demand by outsourcing companies on their BPOs is to provide in-depth analytics and predictive analytics. And so I think there's a big opportunity there as well. We're already seeing that the contracting of BPOs is on business outcomes more than productive hours or whatever other metrics we've been using in the past. And this, of course, creates a set of challenges, but opportunities as well. And I've mentioned the flexibility, not only flexibility to be able to move agents from a on-premise to a work from home, but also that flexibility to scale up and scale down very quickly. So the prospect for BPOs of having long-term fixed headcount contracts, I think there's a rethink going to have to happen in there. So, and then of course technologies. As you quite rightly said, a lot of operators have been stuck with legacy technologies, on-premise technologies that just precluded any potential to move agents rapidly. And where we've seen successes have been those operators that have had cloud technologies, that have had technologies that are conducive to remote workforces, and they've managed to deploy that very quickly, sometimes within days. One of my clients based down in Durban moved 700 agents out of fixed premises into work from home in 9 days. So because of cloud technology. So that's my view of the future. And I hope I'm around to see it unveil that way, unfold. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great. Nice conception of yours. And Iryna will start sharing the presentation. So
Yeah, we
please.
asked this question. Yes, thank you. So we asked our contact centers about difficulty in post-quarantine period. Which issues can they decide nearest time? So you can see, first of all, the staff mostly do not want to return in office. More than half of quantity of the personnel don't want to come back. Next question is the problem of higher quality distance learning, especially for new hires agents with whom no one spoke in person. Next question is next issue difficulties in communication with people who work at home or who work at the office and so on. And next one issue the effective VFM process. I think we will have more and more problems with this process because people will try to work in different variants. Angelica, show please next slide. Yeah. So you can see here, all those issues are related to the fact that the near future contact center will significantly change their structure, I think, structure of work. So you can see here how work Ukrainian contact centers now, different variants of work, yeah. So it's difficult to say whether an effective system will be developed or everyone will create what is convenient only for his own company. But the slide shows that while all systems have the right to exist now, and only time will tell whether some of them work best. So we will see. I think in some months we will make another questionnaire for our contact centers, and maybe we will decide one best variant, or maybe we will see a lot of differences, different variants for each contact centers. So it's our opinion.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, let's hope for the best for the bright future. Okay, so the next question I would like to ask Steve. So what do you see, what trends and innovations are taking place within the outsourcing sector nowadays?
Sure. Rod eloquently highlighted quite a few of them, so I don't want to be too repetitive. We have a habit of that. We tend to great minds think alike, I guess. But the big trend really, and highlights what Rod was saying, is companies you're always going to have transactional type businesses in the BPO marketplace. But overall, companies are looking for true partners in the BPO space around CX strategy. And we're not, I know saying be a partner is kind of a cliche, but they want someone who's actually going to be able to tell them about their customers, how to improve that CX experience. They want them to provide analytics. They want them to really start providing a lot of the new technologies, AI, bot, omni-channel, that's going to support their business. And when I talk about them offering it, it's not just for that BPO particularly, it's that technology base would be utilized to across that company's enterprise, and not just that BPO. Because a lot of companies, are trying to back off a bit on some of these more advanced technologies and investing in it and looking for BPOs to be the experts in those fields. So that all is intertwined into what a true and outstanding CX experience and CX strategy is going to be. And again, Rod really highlights a lot of those components of what BPOs need to do to accomplish that. But the days of companies allowing BPOs to say they're going to be a true partner and then end up being just a transactional type of BPO, those days are really are fast going behind us. And the true successful BPO players are going to be those who actually are in the forefront of CX strategies from a people, process, technology perspective.
This is a really good stuff. I could not agree more, Steve. Thanks. And now we are coming closer to the final part, the things which pandemic has taught the call centers, the post-COVID life of call centers. What should we expect? What is the outlook for future? And as far as I know, nowadays, some big business companies, they plan to give up the outsourcing contact centers and develop in-house call centers and invest more in their automation. So here it comes one thrilling question now, what is the future of outsourcing? And concerning exactly the small and mid-sized business, will small mid-sized business benefit more from in-house solution, or it will still go on outsourcing and it will have a place? So please, Rod, share on this.
Yeah, if I just pick up on my previous discussions, I personally think that the opportunities lie for the BPO operators, because therein is the high level of skill in terms of the utilization of technologies, the capacity to invest in those technologies, sharing those investments and amortizing across a broader client base. So I'm starting to definitely lean towards a bright future for BPO operators, as long as they adhere to kind of those procedures that we mentioned in the previous question, that it's going to need significant investment, that I think many of the corporates might be reluctant to do at this point in time. They're looking for that flexibility. Just at one point, I wanted to add to that is, I think there's going to be a significant shift in the way we recruit agents going forward. And Ranas raised a very good point. And what we are seeing is the extroverts being made to work from home. Their productivity figures are falling because they're like a fish out of water. They need to be in the call center. On the other hand, I'm seeing that the introverts are thriving on the work from home model. And in certain cases that I'm monitoring, they're almost doubling their productivity and their effectiveness. So I think that points to, we've got to relook at who we employ and then appropriately place them on premise in work from home. That's going to be an interesting one going forward. So that's my view of the future. Thank you.
Yeah, this is definitely a good point of view. Please, Rhinus, I'd like to ask you the question. Just here we go. In your personal opinion, now you see that the call centers are coming back from quarantine, and how do they overcome these problems?
Okay, that's fine. So right now we have seen also, maybe as a starting point, we have seen a shift from relying on voice calls a bit. There's a huge increase now on relying on the digital channels, especially due to the COVID-19, and it's also cheaper. So you'd find that WhatsApp for business, there's now huge volumes on WhatsApp, customer support. There's now huge, interaction via web chats, via Facebook interaction or digital platforms versus the voice. The voice interaction have actually gone down as compared to before the COVID-19. So we have seen that. So as the business are shifting now to the new normal, or they are coming back to the offices, you find that they are resourcing more to the guys who are manning the digital platforms and managing the digital platforms. Well, there's just a minor shift. I don't know with other countries, but we have also seen that. And also, if you have to check now, in Zimbabwe, we have seen also the BPO players, international BPO players, they are coming to set up operations, and they also have that shift. The inclination is also on the work from home, on the digital platforms and stuff. And also, because companies are saving right now, due to the working from home, you are no longer investing in the power, in the transport for the agents going back home, all those things, and water and other basics that are required when agents are working from working from the company premises. So because of the reduction on that cost, companies, they are using the same component to invest in the agents who are working from home, maybe to give a small allowance for data, so that they can better manage for data or internet, to invest in connectivity for their agents. By doing so, it will help to improve productivity and to also boost the morale. So then, in terms of the team engagement, which is a very, very key component for team engagement, because team engagement wasn't a very key aspect. I know I've attended sessions by Rod, whom I really credit for most of the things that I know. So for team in the contact center, it's very, very key for the team to have, that morale, to have good morale and all those things. But if you have to check now for team engagement, is very, very key at this moment. Why? Because as you are working from home, you need to be engaged more, especially the introverts that Rod was talking about. So they need to be engaged more. You need to talk to them to hear the challenges more. So the supervisors and the managers, they have a very huge role to play to ensure that their teams are well engaged. There's constant communication with their teams. If there are some challenges with the teams, they need to be resolved, within the shortest period of time. Unlike in the past where there are some prolonged, resolution in terms of the requirements by the staff members. And also in terms of the automation of processes, which is also a very huge, challenge, and which also affects to the productivity. So before the COVID-19, you'd find that things maybe would need some approvals to be signed by management or by directors, and it would take maybe 3 days or 5 working days to get approvals for certain things. But right now, because of the processes automation, approvals are now fast. If you look in an issue that you need approvals from your superiors, it will be approved maybe within 30 minutes or 1 hour, which really also helps to motivate the team members. At the end of the day, it will also boost productivity, which is a very huge plus, and thanks to the COVID-19.
This is very interesting, Iryna, and basically you already answered the question which we received in the chat here. So please feel free to ask some other questions. Okay, so Steve, the question will go to you. Let's have a look. Do you have any special advice on what the software functionality should call center leaders invest money? Now the main problem that they are solving is reducing costs at any possible means.
Sure. Right. So it's a great question, and there's several components here to that, and it's your basic telephony, and then it's the WFO, the workforce optimization type of software that you would want to look at. Again, the obvious start is cloud versus premise. Cloud, again, allows you to ramp up, ramp down every month. You're only paying for the agents and the licenses that you use for that month. So it's kind of like a pay by the drink type of situation versus, and especially if you have seasonal work, you're on a prem system today. As you know, you got to pay for those licenses over a multi-year period, regardless of whether you're using them or not. Not the case in cloud, much more flexible. Two, you can move volume very effectively. So if you need to move volume to work at home, or you need to move volume to another site, you can do this centrally, no problem. Last, the maintenance costs are non-existent. There is no maintenance cost for cloud for obvious reasons. So much more effective, and also a lot less cost to maintain and to manage your center. Then directly to your question about the software on how really to manage agents to get better productivity, better CX. There are terrific workforce optimization products out there, and a lot of these are around speech analytics, data analytics. Now, the challenge with analytics, obviously, is you get a ton of data, a lot of data, and what happens is a lot of companies get overwhelmed by the data. The key is to have a person who actually, whether it's on staff or you have someone outside, who actually analyzes the data for you, that makes it actionable. So it tells you what you need, what you need to do to be more effective. What type of calls can you move from an individual to a digital, to whether it's web, chat. Also, what can you be doing differently on your calls with that customer? What can you do to eliminate multiple calls versus first call resolution? And there are quite a few of these products out there in the marketplace. Again, the key is the ones that are easiest to use in terms of being able to take data and make it actionable. Then there's the, artificial intelligence. I'll just address, because it's a buzzword out there. It's very effective back office. It's still in its infancy stage in terms of call. It's getting better, but in terms of being able to take calls and really automate a lot of the responses for you. It's becoming more effective on chat, more effective on web, but the actual utilization within a call environment is a bit challenging. But have very effective workforce management, quality, analytics tools, which then will allow you to move volume, adjust your strategy to a more digital strategy as well. Being able, that gives you the data, then allows you to move probably more types of calls to IVR, web, chat, and leaves the more complex calls to your agents, which are the more value-added calls.
Thank you, Steve. This is a great point. Also, I see that for now we are running out of time significantly, so I would like to thank you all so much for the joining for today's event. For everyone who has registered today, we'll send the video recording next Tuesday. Thank you, special thank you, very big thank you to our experts for sharing their profound ideas and statistics today. Thank you all. That was a real pleasure to have you here today. And I wish you good health and nice weekends ahead.
Sorry, Angelica, I see 3 questions in the chat. Maybe you can send our contacts to the person who asked those questions, and we can answer directly in mails, maybe.
Yeah, surely.
Thank you. Thank you for organization this very good expert panel. I hope it not last and we will continue such format. And thank you for our participants. It was very interesting to see different experience from different countries. Thank you for all.
Right. From my side, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was like coming into a family gathering here with Rhinos and Steve. And nice to meet you, Iryna, as well. And Velychko, thank you for organizing. And we look forward to working together with you in the future. So have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Angelica, for the opportunity. It's so good to meet everyone. And I hope we'll meet again and we have an opportunity to work together. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all. The questions which we left, we'll answer them via email. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye.